welcome. Welcome to part two of the Malik Show. I am your host, Malik Shabazz Sullivan. Thank you for coming back for part two. And what an amazing first half of the show we had, the passing and the tribute to Nipsey Hussle. And the one and only Philadelphia's own prophet, Mike Claiborne, is live with us on tonight. Well, while our producer get me and the prophet back on two-way, and he know what I'm talking about. There we go. Yes, yes, yes. The prophet is here. I guess he's getting himself together. But for the first half of the show, we talked with Prophet on his childhood, his upbringing, his humble childhood. We talked about his lovely wife, and we talked about his children. So now we're moving on to another segment of the show. Now, Prophet, now this is part two. So we got plenty of time in this part two episode. But the first question that I want to get to on part two is now we talked about your childhood, we talked about family. Now we're moving into another segment. We are going to talk about ministry. Ministry. Now, if you don't mind me, if you don't mind saying, where did you go to church from a child up until now? How and when did you receive your doctrine, and how did it all begin? And how did Prophet Mike Claiborne came about?
Oh wow! I don't know how he came about. I'm still working on him. um, I was born and raised in church. I tell people my mother had her children and took us right to church. I grew up in the church called Little Bethany Holiness Church. My grandparents studied at church, and so my foundation is Pentecost. We're holiness. We're the shouting folks, the tarrying until the Holy Ghost come through. My grandparents didn't believe in giving God glory. My grandfather danced until he passed at 76 years old. Never walked with a cane. Never had any of the things. And so we were raised right there in church. I did everything. I started playing drums when I was 5 years old. I could barely even touch the pedal. I can barely touch them now when I was short. But my cousin was going away. I'll never forget it, to Vietnam. He had gotten drafted into the war, and he was the drummer. And I had been sitting beside him long enough watching, had never played before, but he told the church he's ready. And they were looking like, what? What do you mean? But he said that I was ready. They put me on the drums, and they had never seen it. I could stand up and play. You've never seen that happen. So I started playing the drums. I've sing on the choir. I've sing on the praise team. I was on the usher board. I've done everything in the church that was supposed to be done. I've laid down floor, and I've cleaned bathrooms. I've done everything in church that there was. And so God had allowed this thing to happen. Well, I got filled with the Holy Ghost on Valentine's Day. I'll never forget it. On Valentine's Day at 8:30 p.m. It's my birthday. I was a young man. I was 13 years old when the Lord came and filled me with the precious gift of the Holy Ghost. I got it at lunchtime, but my mother was from the old school, and she said somebody else got to hear you speak. And so even though I came home and got it at lunchtime, we had and they don't do this anymore, we had a tarry revival. It was the whole week, from Monday through Friday, a tarry revival. We only came in for tarry service. And when I got in there, I'll never forget it, I had on Buster Brown shoes and brown corduroys. And I was on my knees, and I couldn't have been down there 3 minutes, and the Lord began to speak through me. Now, all of my life, I was always different. And so at one point, I left the church, got caught out there in love with a young lady, and left the church, and just was tired of the way things was going on, and folks talking about each other in the church, similar to what they're doing now. And it was just too much for me. I couldn't see that was God. Well, when the Lord brought me back, I came back home about 18, back to the church. And when the Lord came back, I said, God, the only way that I would come back to church is I'm going to have to serve you and you only. I'm going to have to love you and you only. And God said, I got work for you to do. And I'll never forget growing up in the church, hearing great preachers, even as a teenager, a man by the name of, the first time I heard what God had called me to, a man by the name of Bishop John W. Barber. Bishop Blues Bishop, before he passed. Bishop Barber prophesied to me at 16 years old in Camden, New Jersey, that God was going to use me as a latter-day prophet. Well, I didn't know what that was. I had never heard that. Our church didn't teach on the prophetic. So I had never heard what a prophet was. We understand later on that some evangelists was prophets, but I didn't know that. Well, at 19 years old, a young man laying in my house, and the Lord told me to go downstairs and pray. And while I was praying, God told me to close the Bible. Well, I'm like, okay, how I'm going to read if I pray? He said, close the Bible. And what the Lord did was, it looked like he took the Bible and put it in his hand and liquefied it and poured it into my mind and poured it in my spirit. Now, you look at it as somebody who don't have a high school diploma. I don't have a college degree.
My God.
But the Lord took the word of God and poured it into my mind. I left school when I was in the 10th grade. In the 9th grade, I left school not because I wasn't smart. I just felt like they were teaching me something that was asinine. I mean, you talking about dissecting a frog. When am I going to ever learn to do that? And that was my mindset. So I left school, but the Lord liquefied the word of God and poured it in my spirit. And the Lord said to me, I'm calling you to be a prophet. Now I said, oh God, I don't know what that is. He opened up the Bible and showed me and then said, I said, Lord, now wait a minute. You want me to go to the church and tell the people that you call me to be a prophet. I wasn't a deacon. And back then you had to be a junior deacon, a junior missionary, a minister, an elder before you could be anything. I was none of them. I was a singer, came back from doing drugs, came back from having that crazy lifestyle out there, hanging out with wrong people, hanging out with pimps and all these other crazy folks, learning, doing cocaine and marijuana and all this kind of stuff. And the Lord said, yes, I call you to be a prophet. I said, God, if I go and tell our pastor this, they not going to believe me. And he said, go tell them that I've called you to be a prophet. I went and told my pastor that the Lord had called me to be a prophet. And she said, really? She said, you can have a good testimony, but God didn't tell her that. And for 7 years, man, I sat on the floor. Now, I still traveled. I preached. Thank God for a man who took me on the road. I had been preaching a few years. Man took me on the road by the name of Bishop William Young. He took me on the road, and that began to get my first taste of evangelizing and traveling as a prophet. God, see, I tell people, you tell me God called you to be something, but you ain't been under nobody and then that same thing. How you been a prophet and you ain't never sat under a prophet? How you a pastor and you ain't never sat under a pastor? How you a bishop and you ain't never sat? Where are you getting your schooling from? This is me. The Lord took me under Bishop William Young, and I began to preach and learn things and learn how the evangelistic work, how to eat food that's set before you, because when the Bible talks about eat whatever's set before you, some of y'all can never be an evangelist is because y'all picky about what you eat. I have eaten all kinds of things, goat and cow and oxtails and rabbit, and I've eaten all kinds of things that was set before me in different countries. Then the Lord allowed me, I'll never forget it, in Camden, New Jersey, to meet my spiritual father, Prophet and Dr. Todd Hall.
Yes. Well, you know what, Prophet, hold on for one second. Hold on for 1 second, though, because speaking of Todd Hall, we have a picture of you, you guys, and you know what? I do want to take this moment. I'm going to let you get back. Oh, yeah, we got that motto back there, but our producer's going to go on. Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to keep going. Stop right there. Yes, the one and only Dr. Prophet Todd Hall. And you know what? I must say, this is a mighty man of God. I personally got connected and known him when he came to us, Grand Old Church of God in Christ, at AIM in 2015 was the first time I heard him, Revival Fire, and he just had us lit. But continue on. Just talk a little bit about you and the Prophet, Todd Hall. So
I met Prophet Hall. What happened is he came to a revival in Camden, New Jersey. He came to a revival, and it was so awesome when God showed up. And I was there, and I was sitting there and dancing and doing what I normally do. And I already had a ministry for 2 years, already preaching, already traveling. And Wednesday night, the Lord spoke to me and says, I want you to stop preaching and travel with him. And I said, I don't even know him. And stop preaching. What, you just called me into this. God said, stop preaching and travel with Prophet Hall. And so I said, okay, God, I hear you. Whatever you say, I trust you. Thursday night, I was the first person that he stood up. I'm in the back. He said, young man, stand up. He said, God said, pack your bags and bring them back with you Friday night. Because God said, travel with me. I knew it was God. God had already told me Wednesday. I knew it was God. And I began to travel with him. I was his personal valet. I was his hairstylist. I disclosed. I did all
Wait a
those
minute,
things.
pause for a minute. Let's back up a little. Personal hairstylist. Well, you know what? I didn't know. So y'all had hair back then.
Yes, man.
Oh Lord Jesus. Well, hey,
We had
listen.
good hair back then.
Listen. Okay, continue on.
I'm glad we did. Prophet and I both had hair, and I took his hair and his clothes. He was a hairstylist at 1.2, and so I mean everyone knows the Prophet Hall is the oldest brother, Aaron and Damon Hall from the group Guy. And I started traveling with him, man, all over the world. And I asked him a question. I asked him about the story of the Elijah and the Elisha. And he told me to go read it. Now, I had read the story, and I thought he was going to give me the revelation of it. And he told me to go read it. 3 times I went to him and asked him to explain that story to me. And on all 3 times, he said, go back and read it. Then the Lord gave me the revelation. When you see me go up, you'll get the double portion. And the Lord told me, he said, most people don't get the double portion. It's because they never see the shift from one level to the next. And I would watch him closely and watch the shift. And every time God would shift his anointing, I would be right there. And a double portion of his anointing would constantly fall on me. And anyone that's ever been revival or been in service know that God knows I have my Father's anointing. I'm happy to be called a son of Prophet Hall. It's been over 30 years that I have been with him. One father, not 10 like these folks got. I got one father, and he's been the same father for the last over 30 years. I have been with him, and the Lord allowed me to travel around the world, man. As you see, I've met some great people.
Great people. And you know what? We're going to talk about those great people. As our producer role. But you know what? I do want to talk about two people that caught my attention. But producer, we're going to back. Oh, we got to talk about that. But let's talk about, well, matter of fact, we're already here. Let's talk about this. I met this man, of course, he's from California. He's a bishop. I met this man back at the one and only Dr. Chad Carlton out of Sterling, Virginia. And let's talk about you and Bishop Noel Jones.
Yes, Bishop Noel Jones is a friend. He's my Jamaican brother, man. We had a chance to live in Jamaica for 3 years. I pastored a church over in Jamaica. The Lord has allowed us to grow a wonderful ministry in Jamaica. Noel Jones, I've known for years. I've known Noel Jones when he was just wearing a robe, not these suits that y'all see. He wore a robe and carried it in a brown paper bag or in his hand. But he always moved me because his preaching was so powerful. I always said he was the preacher's preacher. He would say stuff that would blow your mind. He was like, wait, where did he get that from? And so we have been friends, and I've known him and have been on the same platform with Bishop Noel Jones down through the years. The Lord has allowed me to just be in the same place with him and preach with him and know him. Just great preacher. And to me, one of the prince of preachers in this world today and in this country. Anybody who's ever heard Bishop Noel Jones preach and your mind is not blown by the revelation knowledge that this man has, you're not listening to Noel Jones. Noel Jones, I always tell people Prophet Hall is my favorite preacher, always will be, but Noel Jones and Bishop William Young are the next, besides my brother who is passed, the late Bishop David L. Claiborne. 4 of some of the greatest preachers that I ever met, along with Listen Page, and I know you know him.
Yes, most definitely. I sure do. Well, let's talk about this other great man as our producer backtrack a little bit, because this man is very dear to me. Right there we go, right there. I want to talk about the one and only Archbishop, Ohio's own Bishop Jesse Delano Ellis.
Bishop Ellis, Most people who have ever heard me do protocol, I learned it from three amazing men:
Mm-hmm.
Bishop Ellis, Bishop Eric Garnes, and Bishop Carl Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
I learned protocol from them, and I watched them. Bishop Ellis is from my home; he's from Philadelphia, and
Mm-hmm.
so I've watched them do protocol, understanding being the prince of the church. They gave me I was a prophet and I love God and I love evangelism, I love ministry, but to have a love for the church and to understand that we are the prince of the church, it was Bishop Jesse Delano or Delano Ellis. They taught me protocol and how to be the prince of the church. This man of God, he wrote books. I read them. Everything he wrote, I read them. Let me tell you how he really turned my life around. Bishop Robert Evans had a holy convocation in 1999 where he made my aunt, Bishop Britton, Sylvia Britton, a bishop, and my brother, Bishop David Claiborne. And I was leaving the conference to go preach revival on a Sunday morning. I got on the plane first class. Who was sitting there? Bishop and Lady Sabrina Ellis.
Yes.
I was dressed, I thought, to kill. I was clean. I thought, Malik, you know how I dress. I had on a black and white suit. I had a handkerchief in my pocket. I had on black and white shoes, and I had a collar on. I mean, black and white, everything matched. I'm sharp. I'm clean. And Bishop Ellis said to me, he said, man, you look good. He said, that is wonderful. He said, but can I tell you something? Do you want me to tell you what's right or what you want to hear? I said, I want you to tell me what's right. He said, these people out here know when you are authentic and when you really have the understanding of the church. No priest would ever leave and walk around with black and white shoes on and a black and white suit with a collar on. It will never happen. He said, he said, I believe God had called you. He was so blessed by the revelation on my life. He said, man, you change your dress and love this thing here and watch what God do for you. From that day forward, I wear all the pieces right. I know how to teach it. I have taught on protocol. I've taught on adjutancy. I've been the adjutant, an adjutant leader on major funerals like Bishop Robert Evans' funeral, Bishop Eddie Moe's funeral. I have put together people's conferences. I have taught. If you go to Renzetti's, they know my name down there because I have set up different fellowships up under teaching what's right, the right pieces, what go with what. And so my love for that came from Bishop Jesse Ellis, and I'm grateful to the Lord that the Lord is healing his body and brought him out of the hospital, man.
Yes.
I can dance right on that right there.
Yes, indeedy. Well, you know what? From one fashionist to another prophet, Claiborne, you got to be different, and this is one from one different individual to another. You got to accept your calling. So hey, it is
Absolutely.
what it is with that. But we're gonna move on 9 minutes into our show. But yes, Bishop Jesse Delano Ellis, one and only. God bless him. And yes, Lady Sabrina Ellis, much love to you. Shout out to you as well. But we're going to move forward on. Yes, here's another jewel. I met this beautiful lady, I think 4 or 5 years ago. Her brother and family, such as her nephews, her cousins and stuff, we are all like this. I want to talk about the one and only Bishop Patrina Stedman.
My sister, Bishop Patrina Stedman, is my sister. I love her tremendously. It's amazing how we met. Like you said, keep doing what God called you to do, right? How we met. She was invited to the holy convocation of my Aunt Bishop Britton of the Greater Bethany Fellowships, along with my brother, and I did the morning glory. Well, they got in early in the morning, and they were going to their room because they were tired. They were going to their room to get some rest, and they were going to get up for the afternoon service. But their room happened to be right above where the service was. She said I was praying so hard and so powerful that she was like, we can't stay in this bed. She made all her members get up and come down to the prayer service. nervous to hear me, and they were so caught up in prayer,
Ooh.
and it was powerful. God was moving, and she became my sister instantly. There, she invited me to her brother. People, I'd done revivals for the late Bishop Stedman, whom I love and miss dearly. Many doors he
Bishop
opened
James
for me up in
Stedman.
that church. I preached many revivals in that church, danced up that floor many times. This man and I would go out and eat. He was a friend of mine. I actually helped him understand the millennium. He would call me. He would say, man, I don't understand this church. He said, they want to come on a weeknight and they got on pants. He said, what is going on? And I had to help Bishop to understand that the millennium is a different group of people, not losing the foundation of holiness, but they just do things a little bit
A little
different than
bit
we do. And
differently.
I helped I helped put his conference together. I helped do consecrated the pastors and the bishops. Matter of fact, one New Year's Eve night, they had their consecration on New Year. You know, that's the worst night because we were in service all night long till in the morning. So Bishop Katrina Stedman, her and I and my sister Bishop Hazel Mack, we traveled together to the College of Bishops every year out there in Ohio with Bishop Ellis. And so we are friends, we are family, and I love her.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, we are 6 minutes into our last and final show with Prophet Mike Claiborne. But there's another picture that I want to talk about, producer, as you can roll on. Um, is there any more pictures, producer, as we talked to it? Yes, Prophet. Now, might I say, here's another interesting picture. A gentleman in a red robe and yourself, and I like that hat though. That's stylish right there. But I guess that's your bishop or your presiding prelate.
No, that's my brother, Bishop. He's out of Philadelphia, Bishop Joel Adams. We
Joel
were at the
Adams.
Yes, out of Philadelphia. We were at the funeral homegoing celebration of Bishop Bernard Bragg, who we know just passed.
Yes,
But
Bishop.
that's my brother,
Yes,
Bishop
Baltimore.
Joel Adams. Yes,
Uh huh.
absolutely. Bishop Joel Adams is a powerful man of God out of Philadelphia. Him and I have been friends for over 30 years. That's my brother and my family. And we were together. We traveled. He also traveled with us at the College of Bishops as well. And him and I mean, we go back to where we were just shouting together. And he had a group, and I was just giving God glory. And we've now grown and do ministry and pastor together. He has an amazing church right there in Philadelphia, which is so amazing because when I was in Philly, the building he's in now was my church when I was in Philadelphia. So it's a lot of oil in that church. He got it years later. After another church had got it, he got it years later. But it's a lot of oil in that place. And this man of God preaches all over the country. He's a good friend. He's a good brother. And you would be blessed just to have him in service with you.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, we're 4 minutes into our show, but yes, Prophet Mike Claiborne, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we talked about, in this last 4 minutes, we're going to talk about the last and final thing, and then you will give us the benediction. But anyway, Prophet Claiborne, we come to know you as a councilman, and there's a picture, producer. We can go back just real fast. Yes, yes. Prophet Claiborne, yes, he's the preacher, the prophet, but he's also a councilman. So we want to talk about you on the Philadelphia Council. Let's talk a little bit about that real fast.
Well, we're here in Jacksonville, and I don't actually sit on the council. I do sit on the board of advisors, religious advisors in Jacksonville, Philadelphia. But while I was in Philly, I've been a part of some amazing organizations that made a difference in the city. We've been a part of the chambers of commerce as well in both Philadelphia and in Jacksonville. And we've done some things here. We're looking forward to make a political move in our city. And we're going to be making a major announcement in the next 40 days. But we want to bring a change to the city. And we've done that. And I've always believed you can't make change till you become change. You can sit in your living room and in your car and in your back porch and talk about everything that's wrong in the city and everything that's happening. But what are you doing? You talked earlier about the young man Nipsey Hussle. Nipsey Hussle, what I gather out of him, because I didn't know him, I know his music, but what I gathered is that he did not just talk about change, he became change. And I looked at that, 21,000 people came to his funeral, but how many of them are taking on his same aspect of about making change? We cannot expect the government to come in and change our community. We cannot expect politicians, the mayor, and all these folks to change our community. We have got to be the change agent, and that is what I am looking forward to being. That's what I've been in Jacksonville for the last 8 years. That is what I'm looking forward to being going forward. As I stated to you before, I'm getting ready to make a wonderful political move in my city, and I promise you I'm going to come on your show and let you be the first interviewer of that political move, because I love your integrity and I respect what you've done. I believe if you're going to make change, you got to become a change agent. And I am a change agent, not only in the church, not only in the house of God, but I am a change agent in the community. And you can't make things happen. I always say, don't talk about it, be about it.
Listen.
Too many people are sitting around talking about what they want to see. You don't like what's happening in Congress, you get into Congress and make a change. You don't like what's happening in the White House, you get in the White House and make a change. You don't like what's happening in your police department, you get on the police department and make the change. You get on the justice system and make a change. I don't like the laws that we have going on for our Afro-American boys and girls in this country. And so I'm trying to be on the front end of that and make the change. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to be about it.
Listen, I hear you, Prophet. Well, Prophet, we are into our 1 minute and closing. Well, you pretty much then laid the foundation on tonight. But Prophet, here's my last and final question to you on tonight. I always ask guests that come on, but Prophet, you seem young. You look like you're in your 40s. I'm not going to ask your age, but where do you see yourself within the next 10 years? And and before you answer that and close us out, I am Malik Shabazz Sullivan. Thank you all for being with us on tonight. I want to thank Prophet Claiborne for being on. Catch us next week. Prophetess Renee Winston, Only God Can Do It, will be with us. Prophet Claiborne, dismiss us. The stage is yours. And the final question.
Well, thank you so much. I want to thank you, Malik, for being a man of integrity. As I stated to you earlier, I would never came on most Christian shows or blog shows. I've never been on the Word Network, so you're the first. I've never been on the Impact Network, or now you're the first, and I appreciate you tremendously. I will say I've been on the Eric Lloyd Show, who's an amazing friend of mine out of Detroit. Now, let me answer the question. So I thank you for allowing me this opportunity to come into the houses and the phones and the laptops and the iPads of your friends and your followers. And so I appreciate you. 10 years, where I will be at in 10 years.
10 years.
I am going to be on the face of everybody. People will hear my name. They will hear my voice and they will know who I am. So I'm ready to be the person that people will never forget.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Prophet Mike Claiborne, like I said, we all live, but hey, we still going on. I thank you for being with me on tonight, and God bless. We'll be in touch, and blessings and good luck on your end. And like I say, thanks for coming on tonight.